I know that we can.
I know darn well we can work it out. Oh, yes, we can. I know we can. Yes, we can. Oh, why can't we if we want to? Yes, we can.
I know we can make it work.
Welcome to Yes We Can with Pastor Sherman D.Manning. To all of my audiences out there watching, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have an exciting show. We're going to have a great time. I am honored to have Mr. Brian Ulf with me. He was a real estate executive. He was a principal shareholder and top-notch broker in the commercial real estate industry. He negotiated leases and sales transactions all over the United States of America. Brian was a highly successful businessman and philanthropist, but something happened that changed everything for Brian and his family. Brian, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Very good, sir. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on the work you're doing with Yes We Can. It's an honor to be with you.
Pleasure is mine. Listen, I've told the people a little bit about what you have done, but for my audience who may not know you, tell me who you are.
Well, I'm a born and raised Los Angelino. I'm 64 and have been here all my life. There's not a lot of us that can say that. But I think what you're pointing to and that thing that happened,
yes,
that changed my life. In June 6, 1996, I was with a group of fellow workers, about 80 of us, and I had a unsupervised medical detox, better known as I had a grand mal seizure in front of 80 people. And it was determined that the cause of that seizure was a alcohol withdrawal. That I wasn't aware that had been a problem, but apparently it was, and it showed up very quickly in that.
Had you ever even heard of a grand mal seizure before this day?
Well, I'd heard of seizures, but I never knew that it was caused, in my case, by an unsupervised medical detox. I basically was not feeling well for 4 days and got sicker and sicker each one of those days, to the time where I thought I just had this huge flu. And unbeknownst to me, it was more than the flu. It was God showing me that it's time to stop drinking.
Okay.
And
how
that's what ended
drinking,
up happening.
Brian? How much were you drinking?
You know, as I say, I drank like everyone else, and they go, no, you drink like everyone else you hung out with. And so back in the real estate days in the 80s and 90s, you know, it was work hard, play hard, not necessarily in that order, but it worked for me until it didn't work.
Okay.
And after entering the world of Alcoholics Anonymous, I wasn't really allowed to be anonymous because I was so visibly known as the guy that had the seizure. So most people try to remain anonymous, but in my case, it turned out to be a blessing that I wasn't anonymous, because the longer I stayed sober, the more people realized that the program was working. And all of a sudden I started getting phone calls from fathers and mothers and kids and saying, hey, can you help my husband? Can you help my work partner? Can you help my kids? And I ended up doing interventions and talking to people. And I got invited to be a board member at the Weingart Center Association on Skid Row.
Yes.
And I was on that board for almost 10 years. The big difference, and I think it's important as we have this dialogue, that of the 25 or 26 people on that board, I was the only person in recovery. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's different, and you look at things differently when you're in recovery. You've peeled the onion, you figure out what's going on, whereas, you know, policymakers, whether it's government or boards or something, if they're not involved directly in the recovery or have any lived experience with it,
right,
it's hard to make decisions to get those people into programs to become effective.
Yes. Okay. Now, taking a step back, Frank Gooch is an attorney who was a law partner with Richard Close. And I just did a show recently with his fantastic son, a super lawyer by the name of Matt Close. And Frank was very, very excited about the show. He talked about what a great show it was and how it was entertaining and educational at the same time, and also inspirational. And then he began texting me about you. He said, you've got to talk to Brian. And when he mentioned that you've done a lot of work on Skid Row, I got excited. The hair stood up on the top of my head, and I don't even have any hair on the top of my head, because Skid Row is my stomping ground. It is my forte. So let's talk about homelessness. I want you to tell my audience about Stronghouse USA and give me a little background on that.
Well, Stronghouse is a concept that I have been putting together that houses homeless people.
Okay.
Because when I was down on Skid Row, it became very apparent that, again, policy and people making decisions and the cost of the services that they were providing didn't make a lot of sense to me. Okay. And Stronghouse is a concept of a housing formula, but what led me to that Stronghouse is the organization that I'm the president and board chair of, and that's SHARE, SHARE, yes, which is the Self-Help and Recovery Exchange. Okay. And Stronghouse also is the real estate company that I'm doing after I left one of the major firms in downtown LA. So it was interesting. I never really thought that this was going to happen to me. I mean, in the world that you grow up in, you know, I never necessarily planned to be in real estate, and I sure as hell didn't plan on becoming an alcoholic. Right. And those two worlds collided for me. And in looking at what was happening on the streets of Skid Row and how they were dealing with housing the homeless, it kind of all just came together. And by not being anonymous and being on the service side of actually helping to get people better, and then being on the real estate side to actually figure out how can we do it at a cheaper, better, and a way that, you know, the outcome should be who the people become, not how many people did we take off the street and put in a room. Right. We have to rehabilitate these people. We have to give them an opportunity to actually peel their onion, deal with their trauma issues, and come out the other end. And the SHARE program that I'm involved with now does just that. Okay, now, are you still currently doing real estate also, or are you only doing No, I'm dabbling in real estate. That's where my friend Frank Gooch comes in. He's probably one of the top real estate lawyers in Los Angeles. But more than that, he's just an absolute wonderful guy. Whenever you talk to Frank Gooch, you get a cavity because he's so nice to you and complimentary. Absolutely. And so I'm still I could be with him every day. So I'm trying to understand Stronghouse USA. This is real estate only, or is this a part of SHARE? Unpack that for me. No. Okay. Stronghouse USA is a real estate company that I formed when I got out of working in real estate in downtown LA. Okay. It is also a conceptual organization to do permanent supportive housing in the SHARE model. Okay. That is not existing right now. We are in this other program, which is the SHARE program. There's a program very similar to what Stronghouse is. It's called Haven, HAAVEN.org. I'm familiar. And Haven is a fabulous organization, too, that was started by a wonderful couple that lives in Venice that said, you know, we're trying so hard to get homeless housed. And in the permanent supportive housing deal, the cost of it, the how they're doing it, what they're spending. But the real important thing is, how do you really get these people better? And there was such a lack of community, kinship, and connectivity. You know, if you put a person up in a room by themselves, which is the model that's out there right now, yes, you isolate. You lay back and you have your head on the pillow and you're sitting there talking about worry, doubt, fear, anxiety, upset. What happened in my life? What's going on? What can I do? And you self-medicate that and drink. I know this to be true, sir, because when I was really in my bad drinking times, I ended up losing my family. And I moved into a hotel room. Okay. I was in that hotel room for 18 months, drinking and using. Wow. And going through just basically feeling bad about myself and not knowing how I was going to get out of it. Drinking and using what, may I ask? We used a little bit of everything. Okay. I was a Budweiser sales rep for all of LA and during college, and I learned how to smoke crack on Skid Row, marijuana, the likes, just you name it, what we were doing back then. It was all fun, but I didn't realize the road it was taking me to. Right. And so after correcting that problem, I'm proud to say that I'm 20 plus years sober right now. Fabulous. Fabulous. Yeah.
Your share program, how long have you done this? I'm very excited about it. By the way, I did some research on it yesterday after we spoke. How long have you been doing share?
Well, I've been on their board for the past 5 years, and I've been the board chairman the last 3.
Okay.
It was founded in about 1994.
Okay.
So we're 28 years old, and it was founded with the concept of similar to an AA meeting. They're called self-help support meetings.
Okay.
And when I got out of my hotel, I ended up going to an AA meeting at the YMCA in downtown LA.
Okay.
And I went there and I realized that I was receiving so much help from people with lived experience. I looked across the room and I saw a guy that was dressed up and he was crispy and he was great and just on the ball. And he was talking about all the problems he had. And I go, God, those sound so much like my problems. But look at him. He's put together now. He's got his life back together. He's working. He's got his family. And, it's a program of attraction. And so I was attracted to the sponsors, so to speak, which in the terms of share, we provide people with peer bridgers, which are in a self-help support group. We train people with lived experience to come in and work in our homes, and the homes are really what the secret sauce is for share. Share has currently 51 or 52 homes within these are single family homes scattered throughout the 15 council districts.
So how many bedrooms are in each home, or is there?
It varies.
Okay.
It's 3 to 5 bedrooms, and as high as a duplex model that we use, which is 5 bedrooms, 3 baths upstairs, and 5 bedrooms, 3 baths downstairs.
And how many people do you put in?
And we put 2 people in each room. Okay. Which avoids the isolation. But what it really does is it forms community kinship and connectivity.
Okay, I like it, but do this for me, Brian. Walk me through a day in the life of share. So I'm homeless. I'm sleeping on Skid Row. How do I reach you? How do I find out about you? Take me through it.
We have an outreach team, and an outreach team will come up to you and do an introduction. Everybody that works at our organization is a person in recovery of some sort. It's a peer-run agency, and everybody there has lived experience.
Great.
When I walk up to you, I can say, hey, I'm Brian. I'm an alcoholic. Do you know someone that needs help out here that possibly could use housing? And then the person will say, well, that person does. But in actuality, we know that they do too.
Right.
And we have a program that you can get housed within 24 to 48 hours of our first conversation.
Wow.
So I will be there with you. I'll explain what happened to me in my life. You start to understand that I'm just not a social worker that's coming out there with a bottle of water and a candy bar that say, hey, fill out this coordinated entry system program. We don't have anything right now, but we'll get something to you later, or we'll get you permanent supportive housing or whatever and put you on the list.
Okay.
There's a huge trust issue that doesn't work in that process.
Help me with this, because I'm in the housing work and I do it every day like you do. I know that most of these people don't have phones. Most of these people don't have contact information. So I just met you today, and I'm sleeping in a tent. And we've had this conversation. I'm excited about your program. How are you going to reach me tomorrow? Walk me through it.
Yeah. Well, I would beg to say that the majority of people that we run into do have phones. But if you don't have a phone, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call our share hotline at 877-742-7349. And the person on the other end is going to be a lived experience housing coordinator.
Great.
And I'm going to introduce that housing coordinator to you. And you're going to get on the phone with him. And you're going to tell him a little bit about yourself and answer a couple questions. Do you have income to pay any rent? Do you have any issues already? Do you have SSI? Do you have SSDI? Do you have general relief? Are you a vet? All these different things that have income streams tied to them.
Right.
You'd be blown away that the majority of people on the street have a form of SSI, SSDI that pays them anywhere between $900 and $1,200 a month. With that income and with the help of some rapid rehousing money, we can put you into a shared house again that day, that night, or within the next 24 to 48 hours. So that person, once wanting to go through it, we will pick them up and take them to one of our share homes that has an opening, and we will take them in and put them into that house. They will meet with the peer coordinator for that house. And the peer coordinator is a person, again, with lived experience that's responsible for 20 of our residents.
Okay.
So that person will meet with you and do a life plan with you and sit down and talk to you about where have you been, where are you going, how can I help you get there? And so I do an individual plan with you, but then I also do a plan. If it's a 3-bedroom house, there's 6 roommates, and we'll sit with the 6 roommates and say, hey, you guys are going to make the rules on how you want to live here. Who wants to do the dishes? Who's going to cook? Who's going to do the basic chores? Similar to, if you went to college, your parents didn't put you in a room down the street. They put you in a dorm.
They did.
It's the way you grew up. It's the chores you had to do. So it's a familiar atmosphere for them to be back in so-called family. And when you have a group of people that you're trying to get better and they're allowed to make their rules on how they want to live, it's amazing how it happens, especially when they're being coached by someone that's accomplished and overcome exactly the issues that they have.
Right. They have, I agree. I love the idea. They have a buy-in. I run into a lot of people who do have these sources of income that you're talking about.
You're cutting out. I can't hear you, sir.
I run into a lot of people who do have these sources of income that you're speaking of. My question would be, if you run into a person who does not have any income whatsoever, what do you do with them? Is there anything you can do for them?
Well,
can you help them because the other problem, Brian, I run into guys who are eligible for lots of money but are not getting any of that. So what do you do with that person?
I get that. And it is difficult. I think one of the problems on the street is that they push everybody in that is one big problem and everybody's the same, but everybody's not the same.
Right.
And our program, when we do outreach, we usually have a success rate of about 30% of the people we talk to are willing to come into our program. If they don't have the benefits, we can get them enrolled into the benefits.
Wonderful.
And it usually takes, 3 weeks to 2 months. Right. And in that interim, we can tap into the rapid rehousing money that's available and some other funding streams or scholarship per person in. But the whole purpose is to give you a hand up versus a handout. We want you to earn your desires to become somebody. We want you to participate in your own recovery.
Right.
And when you have skin in the game, it seems to work much better.
I agree, totally. And so the other question I have for you is, when you run into people, I run into people all the time who not only don't have a phone, but don't have any form of identification. Do you have outreach team members, or do you have programs set up that can help a person, say, who's just got out of prison, Brian, and doesn't have any idea? Let's talk about that, because you and I mentioned prison yesterday. We talked about that.
So, we provide wraparound services the same way any of these other organizations do, except we provide them with people that are coming from lived experience. Okay. So I'm going to connect you with the VA if you're a vet to help you with your benefits there. Right. I'm going to help you with a case manager that you've been assigned to if you got out of prison, whether it's a probation officer or whatever, or anybody that has an ability to communicate with you in the past that has you kind of registered into their system. Right. And if you're not, we take the time and we'll walk you through case management. There's, St. Joseph Center, there's PATH, there's the United Way in downtown. There's all of those agencies that specialize in getting you into the benefits that you need to have.
If I'm on parole or probation, you can still help me.
We help anybody, sir.
Great.
Yeah, we have no barrier of entry. Everybody is fixable if they choose to become that way.
Where are you located?
Well, our main office is in Culver City, and that building is a former racquetball athletic club, and it was put there for that. But we converted it into a building that provides self-help support group meetings. Like if you have an AA, there's over 7. We track as share over 12 and give 12,000 referrals out to different self-help support groups. Okay. If you are an AA or Al-Anon or Alateen or sex abuse or domestic violence or any of the 750 presenting issues that would basically make you a consumer of mental health services,
Right.
there is a self-help support group for you. And we direct you and get you into that. So that's what really happens at the Share building.
Yes.
Is the self-help support group meetings.
Uh-huh.
We also train. We have a $3 million grant from the state. We trained 987 people last year to become peer specialists,
Wonderful.
meaning people that were prisoners that have an ability to come out and get back into their life, looking for a job. They can sign up and become a peer bridger with us and earn probably up to $50,000 a year to take that lived experience in order to get people better.
They can earn that from your organization or from
Yeah,
another?
it's a paycheck.
It's a pay. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
it's a paycheck, and so there's different levels of that program.
Right.
But part of our deal is having jobs, and when you really measure the outcomes of what's going on,
Right.
26% of the people with severe mental health issues get jobs in our program within the first year. 43% of the residents are employed. 70 to 80% attend the self-help support groups that I'm talking about.
Right.
52% of the residents are African American. 58 move out into market rate housing within 18 months. 24% move out to reunite with their families. And 25% make this their permanent supportive house forever. 5% are veterans. 8% need a higher level of care, meaning we just can't take care of you because
Right.
you need a higher level.
Right.
Only 4% of our people return to homelessness after 2 years.
Okay, you just answered about 5 questions without me even asking them. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: what
Yeah.
made you, Brian, so concerned about the homelessness? I know that you had this seizure, you had drug issues, you had a lot of issues. What really drove you to become so passionate about the homeless in this beautiful city of Los Angeles?
Well, I kind of have a little inner person inside of me, and for the majority of everywhere I go, I'm the only person in the room that doesn't get paid to be there, and I think it's really kind of an
Welcome to my world.
yeah, it's an inner relationship that I have with my higher power, knowing that the work that I'm doing is helping others, and trust me, in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the step 12 is having had a spiritual awakening, and the result of the steps, you took the message to the alcoholics that still suffered. I had an affinity with the people on Skid Row because I was the Budweiser salesman down there. I was down there and got arrested. I was down there and smoked crack.
Right.
I saw the people. And when I also was down there realizing that the world basically has swept that group of people down to that location. And it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
And the thought, I wrote a paper in my spiritual psychology master's class that I wanted to change the name Skid to Hope. My license plate say Hope Row. I wanted to change Skid Row to Hope Row.
Wow.
Because if you're in Skid, you become Skid, you act like Skid, everybody calls you Skid, that's who you become.
Right.
If you have hope, you live with hope, you are put in a position where you recognize that you can turn your life around and you have hope, you do become that way.
Right.
And so I can't tell you a bigger thing that turns me on or flips my buttons or fills my heart than to see somebody that I've taken off the street, see somebody that I got into a supervised detox, got them into a recovery program, got them put into a share collaborative house, got them a job, and then sent a guy back to Minnesota to reunite with his family. I mean, that's the trifecta. That's the whole deal. That's getting.
Isn't it? I mean, it is a spiritual or psychological climax that I get to experience quite often, and so I know the feeling there, and I appreciate your passion.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful program. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to unpack everything, so I want to say this. First of all, I'm going to have you back, and I'm going to have you back soon. Secondly, I thank God that Frank connected us. Thirdly, in about 2 minutes or less, Karen Bass has won her office for mayor, or Rick Caruso has won, whichever one wins. And they call you and they say, Brian, you've been on Skid Row a lot. You've done this kind of work. We want to make you the homeless czar. What would you do day one to try to solve this problem on Hope Row? What would you do?
We would turn Hope Row into 5,000 individual people instead of one big giant pool of homelessness.
Yes.
You have to meet people where they are, and I don't care what anybody else tells you. Your issues are different than mine, and mine are different than yours.
Yes.
And where your trauma is, I mean, the reality is you're a divine being having a human experience.
Right.
All right.
Right.
And you're here to give your gift. And whatever that gift is what you're supposed to do. When you fall off the rails, it's because you've experienced trauma from something that's happened in your life. We have to take and find out where those people's traumas are
Yes.
in order to get them back on the rail. You can't say in the existing system, I would say to Karen Bass and I would say it to Rick, you just can't put a person and stick them up in the room and say, we've solved the housing problem, your housing problem.
Right.
And all the services that are provided are all voluntary services. And I'm not saying you have to make them use services,
Right.
but you have to strongly encourage them to use them by bringing in people with lived experience that can show them that they got better by doing it.
Yes.
And I'd love to meet with Karen. I've gotten a call from Rick. I've met with several of the politicians that are out here.
Right.
And again, our program, 30% of the people are willing to come. And our program costs $10,000 to service these people with peer bridgers.
Right.
We have no cost for real estate because we're using existing housing stock. So if you kind of do a share and compare, it costs the city close to $1 million to house somebody. And it costs us $10,250.
Why is that?
That's a huge difference.
Why is that?
Well, without throwing stones, because I work with a lot of these people
Right.
that you probably hear references to
Right.
the homeless industrial complex.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't cost $800,000 to build a 300 square foot room.
Mm-hmm.
The nonprofits that service those units, it's
Yes.
roughly $46,000 per person that they get paid to provide services to people that don't necessarily use them.
Mm-hmm.
The people that have existing homes pay the rent, which covers the mortgage. It's kind of like an Airbnb.
Right.
These existing homes throughout LA.
Yes.
The owner runs it like an Airbnb. Knives, forks, kitchens, linens, cleaning, laundry soap, paper towels, all of that. It's turnkey. Cable. The person that comes in has no expenses other than paying for food. And when you can put them in an environment that's brought them into a home and community, you can get better. And you can get better quickly.
Absolutely. Give me your phone number again to share.
The sheriff phone number is 877-742-7349.
And what's the website? I'm sure she's going to put it on the screen.
Is shareselfhelp.org.
Okay.
And we will house you today or tomorrow if you call us and come through our process.
Fabulous.
I can't tell you how wonderful it is.
Again, shout out to Attorney Frank Gooch, a wonderful man.
Frank.
I mean, he just has such a beautiful spirit. And I promise you,
beyond.
Brian, I'm not just a talker. When I say you're going to be on again soon, I'm going to get you on next week because we have a lot more to talk about. We didn't even scratch the surface here today. We didn't scratch the surface, but I want to say to you, I thank you so much for coming on, and I thank you for the great work that you're doing every day. I love to meet people who are for real. I love to meet people who are authentic, who are doing something to help somebody else. Yeah. And I can see that you're doing that. Thank you for coming on. Anything you want to say before you go?
Well, I just, again, back at you. I appreciate what you're trying to do here, Pastor Manning. And you say you do a lot of work on Skid Row. Let's go down there together. You'll see.
Consider it a date.
that we probably run into a lot of people on the street. I took somebody down the other day. I jumped out of the car and I hugged a guy in San Julian Park.
Yes.
Brian, where you been? I've known him for 20.
San Julian Park is my stomping ground, and I can, not that it matters, but I've seen you before. Now that I see your face, I've seen you before. We just haven't connected, but we've connected now, and we'll get back together again.
I sing in a gospel choir with the Agape International Spiritual Choir. And I've sang in that park.
You want to sing a 30-second? You want to sing a 30-second solo right now?
No. We'll do it.
We'll do that the next time. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. All of you who have been calling and sending me emails. Some of you have asked about my sponsors. This show doesn't have any sponsors yet. We're going to be very selective about who we allow to be sponsors of this program. Yes, we can. Worship Center. We house the homeless, feed the hungry. I'm sure the website has been up. If people want to donate there to help us do the work that we're doing, you can do it there. Shameless plug. know that every Friday night I have a church service for the homeless. We bring them in, we bus them in, we feed them when the service is over. Go to yeswecanworshipcenter.org to find out about that. Show ideas, guests you want me to have on, 213-858-2608. I thank you for tuning in. I thank Mr. Brian Ulf for coming on. Go to his website. Check out the wonderful, fabulous, sincere work that they're doing. They're not just getting rich off of poor people, but they're actually helping poor people. Attorney Frank Gooch, thank you for the introduction. John Eisen, you had something to do with this also. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, when it comes to your neighborhood and your community, you can make a difference. We can do it together. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. God bless.
God bless you.